Well, everybody is back in action for Tuesday's MLB slate, and so are we here on First Pitch. How do we make money on all this action? That's what you're here to find out. Dan Alexander with you. We're going to break down a whole slate of games. Houston, Seattle. We're going to have a player prop in Miami, San Diego. Yankees, Angels. We'll be talking Mets, Dodgers, and of course, with the live chat, we'll be hitting on your questions, your comments throughout the show. But, gentlemen, let's get right into it. I got two of the best in the biz joining me today. Eric Pauly with the Gold Sheet and two R's, one L. That's right, Steve Merril back here in the house. So, gentlemen, let's start here with Houston and Seattle. That's the game that our man EP has slated to talk about for his big game breakdown. And if you haven't joined us before, make sure you hit that like button and you're subscribed. But EP loves breaking down these games, giving you potential player prop options, pitcher matchups and all. So I'm wondering, a lot of angles that you can be looking at here for this Astros and Mariners game. One of the angles that stands out is the fact that Houston going to be putting Hunter Brown up there and his strong 1-5 records. So I'm wondering, how are you looking to bet this one, EP? Because a bunch of question marks heading into this one for me.
Yeah, so I have a couple of angles that I do like, but I just want to mention just kind of how I handicap certain pitchers in general.
Mm-hmm.
So Hunter Brown is a great example. I talked about this similar situation with Jose Barrios, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Hunter Brown fits that same exact mold. So last year, Hunter Brown, a rookie, has an amazing start to the season. His expected metrics bet worse than his actual counting stats. Toward the end of the year, he had some struggles, and then this year got absolutely demolished to start the season. Now, everybody has this assumption that Hunter Brown is just this crappy pitcher. He's not this terrible pitcher. Like, yes, his advanced metrics are not great, but Hunter Brown, at just 25 years old, is a guy moving forward who I'd be interested in backing, because we have seen some time where he has looked like a very, very good pitcher in the majors. He also has had some unlucky outings that have led to some of his terrible outings so far this season. So I'm still in on Hunter Brown overall. On the flip side, you have Luis Castillo going for the Seattle Mariners. But regardless how much I like Castillo as well as Hunter Brown, this game is one of the better games to target for Dinger Tuesday. And I actually like the lefties in the Houston Nationals lineup. Shocker, Jordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. What's not to like about those two studs going against Luis Castillo, who has struggled in advanced metrics and general batting average, slugging, batting average against, etc., against left-handed batters. On the other hand, Hunter Brown has also allowed a lot of home runs this season as well. And guys like Julio Rodriguez are finally getting hot for the Seattle Mariners. I also like Dylan Moore and his ability to hit Hunter Brown's pitch mix today. So I expect this one to have some home runs. These are two teams that on Tuesdays, coincidentally, are the third and fourth most home runs, 13 for Seattle, 12 for Houston. The Mariners are not a team who likes to string together hits. They're a long ball or bust. Houston as well has the slugging ability, and then especially, again, those two lefties. So I like Kyle Tucker props, Jordan Alvarez props, and Julio Rodriguez props in these matchups in a game that I think the Houston Astros pull out and win this one in Seattle after losing last night.
Yeah, and shout out to the chat here joining us live. Have Cash, Eric D, Tyler, Ace, Rothstein, Titan CT, all of the folks in the chat. We appreciate you. Hit that like button while you're hanging out. And Tyler saying, Dinger Tuesday info. We love it, EP. So man of the people right here out of the gate with some Houston Astros breakdown there. Hop below in the comments and let us know what other games you'd like to hear about. Steve, with this loaded card that we have in MLB action today, we also have a doubleheader sitting here, and that's the Dodgers and the Mets. Looks like McGill and Glass now in game 1, and for game 2, it looks like Stone and Quintana as the pitching matchups in that. For game 1, sitting at a total of 7.5 for game 2. I know you definitely have thoughts here for game 2, but as we head in and you're handicapping a doubleheader, how do you kind of assuage what you maybe might see in game 1, or if you have an angle that you like in game 2, do you not even count what you're going to potentially see in game 1? What say you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to look at game 2 in a second on the total, and I like it either way, but we could like it even more depending on how game 1 plays out, and I'll explain that. First of all, we have seen some money come in on the home dog Mets in both games 1 and 2 so far today. We've also seen money coming on the under in both games 1 and 2. I disagree with the under money, especially in game 2. I think the over is worth a look over 8. We might see some 7.5s, especially if game 1 is low scoring, if the offenses struggle. But both offenses have been very mediocre. Dodgers, in fact, came off a very poor showing at Cincinnati this week, and they scored 1 run in each game. They've now lost 5 straight. I think that's one of the reasons we've seen some money coming on the Mets. But the Mets have lost 5 of their last 6 before a 4-3 win on Sunday as well. But both teams were off yesterday on Monday. I think it's a nice reset for the offenses. They're rested. The bullpens are rested as well, so they'll be fully available in game 1, but I think they might be taxed a little bit. So that's another reason I like the over more in game 2. I like the over for other reasons also. I'm not a believer in Gavin Stone. He's put up good numbers here over the last month or so, but if you look at his career numbers, they're below average, not only in the majors, but last year in the minor leagues, he had 19 starts in AAA last year, had a 4.7 ERA. That'd be way over a 5 in the big leagues. And so far this season, he's made 9 starts, a very mediocre 3.6 ERA, a 1.3 whip, and that's with him pitching incredibly well for the most part over the past month. In fact, before the Arizona game last week, he'd given up exactly 1 earned run in 3 straight, or actually 4 straight games. I'm not a believer, though. When he faced the Mets back in mid-April, it was probably his worst outing of the season. Gave up 2 runs in just 3 innings, had 5 walks and only 1 strikeout. So he really struggled with the Mets. They've already seen him once this season. And once again, I think game 1 get the offensive going, and game 2, if the bullpens have been used at all, it's an added bonus. And I'm not a believer in either Stone or Quintana. So if you're looking to play the over in either game, I like the over game 2 here between the Mets and Dodgers tonight at 7 Eastern.
Runs taking place in Flushing, New York, says our man Steve Merril. What games and which totals are you eyeing? I know we already had some folks chiming in here in the chat on a game we're going to touch upon a little bit later, and that's that Seattle Mariners game, or that game that our man EP touched upon earlier here. Mariners money line or pass was a feeling for our guy Tyler. Hop below in the comments and let us know how you're looking to bet those. But gentlemen, another game that has been brought up is this Pirates and Tigers game. And we got Jones and Skubal. And really the question heading into this one is what do you get, EP? And I want to go to you since you're diving in on these pitchers so much. What do you get from Skubal? Because I feel like that's how you handicap this game, and that's the starting point for Pirates and Tigers. Would you agree with that, or how do you see this game shaking out?
Yeah, so I think that this total of 7 is well warranted. According to some of my numbers, I don't have Pittsburgh scoring more than 3.5, maybe Tigers scoring just a little bit over 4 runs when I run simulations. So this is a matchup where I do expect it to be your stereotypical pitcher's duel. Now, obviously, it's very easy to just say that when you have 2 guys with these kind of numbers going against each other. Yeah, you're going to say there's a low total. You expect these teams to, go under that total. Based on how these offenses go, I mean, these are teams that are very feast or famine on offense. We've seen the Pirates, consistently put up like 8 runs in big spots. The Tigers as well. And you have games where they're absolutely shut out and they're, can't really hit for anything. And I just want to touch upon just how good these 2 pitchers are. Like Jared Jones leads the majors in pitching plus so far this season. Tariq Skubal in 8th in pitching plus. These are metrics by Fangraphs. You go to some other metrics like location plus. You have Jared Jones near that top there. And another thing that I love to look at is swinging strike percentage. Jared Jones leads the MLB with a 17.9% swinging strike percentage. Tariq Skubal with a 14.5% swinging strike percentage. That is number 10 in the MLB. And you have 2 offenses that are not very disciplined offenses. These are offenses that are very prone to striking out often, and you don't put the ball in play. You're not going to have a ton of good things happening. And again, you're dealing with pitchers at this point in time that when you go to, about 30 innings of qualified work, you have Jared Jones, who was 11th in strikeout rate, and you have Tariq Skubal, who was 8th in strikeout rate. So I do expect this to be a game that you would expect to see a lot of missed bats. Now, Jared Jones does allow a lot of home runs when he does get hit. He does get hit hard, but that is just something to note for these 2 matchups. So I don't have any plays. I'm just very excited to see these 2 absolute studs going at it today.
Yeah, and Steve, do you see this kind of similar? It's funny, Detroit, you would like to say, oh, finally, the bats maybe came alive. That game that happened on Sunday was absolutely insane, what happened in Toronto. 14-11 was the final, and Tigers blew 2 5-run leads in that. So, having an extra day to maybe breathe after that, you think a good thing, a bad thing for the club, it doesn't matter? Or do you see this similar that, hey, we could be looking at a pitcher duel at least early in this matchup? What say you?
The sharp money definitely likes the under. It opened 7 over. Now it's 7 under
Yeah.
25. And one of the sharpest offshore books around the world is now at 6.5. So we are starting to see some 6.5. So if you like the under, I would grab that key number of 7. If you like the over, I would wait because there are some 6.5 starting to show. As far as the side, I lean towards the Tigers here. And you mentioned how their offense has been struggling. What's funny, Dan, is they actually went over 7 straight games heading into that second game against Toronto this past weekend.
Wow.
But the 4 previous overs that they had 7 hits or less. So it was very misleading. The reason the games were going over is because their pitching had been awful. And I don't think that'll be the case tonight with Skubal on the mound. I like to back quality starters after a bad start as long as nothing's wrong. And I don't think anything's wrong injury-wise. He had given up 2 earned runs or less in 7 straight starts. And he gave up 4 and 5 innings against Kansas City. So this is definitely a bounce-back spot for a Class A starter. So I like the Tigers in this game. As far as the over-under, if he pitches well, it probably stays under. So a Pirate team total could be another way played under Pirates team total.
So Ace Rothstein in the chat, he wants us to touch upon this A's game, a marquee matchup, the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland A's. He's saying the A's are seeming like they're back to normal. So anybody liking the Tampa Bay side today, although heading into this game, it's not like there's been major binds on Tampa Bay slugging to 500 record over these last 10 outings. I'm trying to see, let me refresh here. It does look like we have a pitcher, maybe not named, but definitely a probable pitcher for the A's. Steve, have you seen a pitcher named? I'm looking at Spence on my screen now against Lytle for the Rays. Have you seen anything else, and do you have any thoughts in this game?
Now, the matchup reports I look at, the WagerTalk live odds screen right now, they both have Spence. But I will say this. You talked about the slow start for Tampa, the fast start for Oakland. Look, if we'd done this bet, 2 months ago, and you said you could have got Tampa at home at less than minus 170, that would have been extreme value. So I do think there's something to that. The A's are still 11 below 500. The Rays are 2 below 500. The A's are going to end up more than 11 below 500 this year. The Rays could very well end up as a winning team. They should. So there probably is value with Tampa right now, and this line is showing it.
Yeah, how about you? Anything that stood out to you in this one? Again, it's two teams that you can look at the season-long stats, sure, but recent form definitely isn't true for, I would argue, either of these clubs. One may be moving upwards, and the other kind of returning to form, maybe what we expected in the case of the A's. Any thoughts on this one for you, EP, going at 650 tonight?
Yeah, I think the Rays are a bad baseball team. So I actually would back the Oakland Athletics at plus 150. I understand that they're, coming more true to their form that everybody expected. But the Rays bullpen has been consistently one of the worst in baseball. Zach Mattel's not somebody who's difficult to hit. And the A's bullpen has been one of the better units in baseball. So if they're able to get a lead early, I think Tampa Bay is going to struggle to score. I would take the Oakland Athletics at plus 150.
Yeah, and sometimes it's especially when you're talking about a sport like this, a sprint like baseball, sometimes it really is just, hey, make the price make sense. So at a plus 150, I could definitely understand the case being made. It's not like with this Rays, I want to be laying a number. That one for me was just to cross it off the list. So a game that does have a little bit more intrigue, despite the massive price you'd have to lay on the Braves. City by the Bay, shout out to you. We appreciate you in the chat. He's asking, any thoughts on the Nats team total? Team total sitting at 2.5. And this is, I'm guessing, an alt line potentially, but minus 130. He's saying Nats over team total against the Bravos. It's Fried on the mound. Steve, any thoughts on that one?
Not necessarily the team total, but I will say that big picture with the Braves, this is a team that's supposed to be one of the best teams in baseball. Now they're without Acuna the rest of the season. We've seen this movie before, though. The last time it happened, they won the World Series, and they were actually below 500 at this point of the season, I believe. So at 30-21, they're actually well on pace to do what they need to. But what's been fascinating to me has been Atlanta's lack of scoring, and they'd gone under 19 out of 21 games up to about a week ago. In fact, just one over. There was a push. They were 19-1-1 to the under over a 21-game span. One of the most incredible runs I've ever seen in baseball over the 20-plus years I've handicapped. They've since gone 5-4 to the over going into yesterday. So they are starting to turn the corner with some more overs, and they went over again yesterday. So now 6-4 over the last 10 since that 19-1-1 under run. And big picture with Acuna out now, I think that could actually be a spark plug for the Braves. They're still a very talented team, a very talented offense. So I would not get in front of them right now in the near future. Yes, it's a big price, but I think this game will have some runs. So I would lean Nationals team total over for that reason. But I think the run line -1.5 with the Braves is the best way to attack this big number. And you get it way down to -125. Atlanta's a play-on team here in the near future.
Yeah, and you see Atlanta with the quintessential bounce back spot. Maybe the hangover from that Acuna news bit them a little bit here on Monday. A massive number, though. And EP, the handicap that you just gave on the previous game was talking about, I just can't justify this price. Even with Atlanta in a bounce back spot, I like Steve potentially breaking it down. If you like that side, make the price make sense for you and lay a 1.5. But EP, are you interested? I'm looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen. We got as low as like 242 on Atlanta. We have as high as about like 267 and up. Like, I don't want to lay that number with Atlanta. What do you think? And we have Eric completely frozen. So this is great thoughts.
I agree with everything Steve said.
Yeah, whatever Steve said, just run it back.
I can't top anything he said.
When we get EP back, we'll get his thoughts on that one. But yeah, hey, what are you gonna do, folks? Sometimes that is how it goes here. All right, well then we'll roll with a couple other questions that the folks are looking at here in the chat. They want to talk about the Twins. Our man Tyler Woods Richardson is the GOAT. Twins got all the value today. They're taking on the Kansas City Royals. We get a nice plus price at home, Steve. What do you think about the Woods-Richardson GOAT comparisons for our man Tyler there? Any thoughts on this Twins matchup?
Yeah, other than WagerTalk TV, Joe Ranieri's favorite channel is Sports Grid. Get on the grid. And I did a quick hit last night with some guys there, and they were asking me if the Royals were for real. So that's where I was going with that whole lead in. Kansas City's been drastically outperforming. I think their season win total is in the mid-80s now, the adjusted win total. Yet they're only about $1.30 favorite here. I do think the Royals will fade at some point. But what I pointed out on the show last night when I was talking about this, I was like, they're in a very weak division still. Now, granted, they don't play as many games in division because of the balanced schedule. But when they do, I think they'll continue to take advantage. And this is one of those divisional games. So they're favored on the road for a reason. They're the better team right now. I think they have a pitching edge. And I look for them to have a nice win tonight here, laying the short price -130. I do think Kansas City probably regresses in August or September, but they're an underrated team right now, and I think this price is showing it. We have seen a little bit of money, by the way, Dan, come in on the Royals. It opened 120 up to 130, 135, so the market agrees as well.
Yeah, and we got some dissension in the chat here. G Hurt, Twins have none of the value here, our man G Hurt. So, hey, you never know what you're going to be getting here in the comments. Speaking of which, we have a great question over on the YouTube Shorts feed. That's right. You can catch us on your phone. You can catch us on the desktop. If you hit that little bell, you'll never miss any of the shows that we have here at Wager Talk. But Mike K with a great write-up here and asking you, Steve, about this Guards and Rockies game. Does anything stand out with the Guards and Rockies? Guards got beat up yesterday. Curry was pitching. They have McKenzie going tonight against Feltner. Also, happy belated Memorial Day to you too, as well, Mike K. But, and Joe doing a great job behind the scenes, monitoring the chat as well. He points out McKenzie ain't right. You know what I mean? So any thoughts in that one for you, Steve?
Yeah, Colorado had, like 5 runs in the second inning, and then they end up with only 6 hits. They don't go over on Sunday. Exactly. Of course, I had the over 9.5 in that game. And, of course, I stayed off it yesterday, and they put up 14 combined runs. So I'm probably not the best person to be asking about the Rocky games right now. But I do think this is a bad Colorado team. Their bullpen's not good either. Cleveland holds a substantial bullpen edge. Eric was mentioning that earlier in the A's breakdown. Mm-hmm. This is one of the biggest mismatches from a bullpen perspective that we have on the board. So when in doubt, I would definitely take the better bullpen, and it's a pretty modest price at -130 with Cleveland.
Yeah, and we got our man EP back, so I'd actually like to circle back and get his thoughts in that Washington game, simply because he's a guy who's close to it. He's one that he sees well. So the Atlanta and Washington matchup, you were going to give us your thoughts on that one, EP, and then we'll circle back to some of these other games we were talking.
Yeah, keep it quick. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi here. Apologies for all of that. But
Neither do
Nationals offense. I only have one screen going right now, no other tabs, whatever. Digression aside, Nationals offense buys into exactly what Max Fried does, a 52.5 ground ball rate, a 227 expected weighted on base against left-handed pitching, a .048 isolated power, which is atrocious if you know the isolated power metric. So not the time where I expect the Nationals to continue their offensive success that they had against Uncle Charlie yesterday. I don't think they're bringing it in again against Max Fried, who's been obviously pitching amazing this season. So this is a pass. I would like run line Braves of anything, but I'm not dying to bet on this baseball game.
Steve and EP, a game that we're going to hit on. And don't worry, folks, we do have best bets coming your way. We're going to talk some Yankees and Angels. We're going to talk a player prop in Miami and San Diego. So that's coming your way here shortly. But we were talking about, lines getting hit and checking out over at the WagerTalk Live odds screen and seeing what that could potentially mean. As far as it looks for me in this Arizona and Texas game, we're still looking at an undecided pitcher in that one for the Rangers. He's going to be, whoever they end up going, is going to be opposing Fott. And we have seen a little bit of D-backs money come in since we've been chatting here on the show. And this is a game that the chat's brought up about several times. I mean, I think maybe it'll be Dunning, Steve. I don't know if you have any more indication on that one. But the game's going in Arlington. You have a home dog situation, and the chat's asking, what's up with that? Rangers as a dog at home, even with how they've been playing, kind of feels like that could be a look. What say you, Steve?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be Dunning. If I had to guess, that's what I'm seeing on some matchup reports, but it's still undecided, like you said, on the WagerTalk Live odds screen. And one of the edges we have as sports bettors is we don't have to bet games that we don't want to bet. And with an undecided starter, I'm not going to try to guess, but I do think this is based on Fott being the starter. He's been pretty solid for the most part. Other than that outing against San Diego earlier this month, he's been pretty strong in like his other 6 starts recently. So I think that's why we see Arizona as the road favorite.
Makes sense. And also you could argue, sure, maybe as far as the season wins, debate there, but it's only one more if it is going to be Dunning. So a lot of folks in the chat saying, Fott, give me the greater sign over Dunning. Do you see it the same way, EP?
I'm a huge Brandon Pfaadt guy. I really like him a lot. I would like to know who is going for Texas before looking at it. But again, it's like the Rangers have me so I want to say confused because I watched them play bad baseball. So it's not confusing, but I'm not ready to give up on this team because they are really talented. Corey Seager's starting to heat up as well. So I would look at the Rangers on the money line, but again, not something I'm running to the window to bet because I don't know enough about the Rangers pitching situation right now. And they're just not doing it. They're not doing it.
Yeah.
And Dan, don't forget this is also World Series revenge. We talked about the Dodger-Arizona series like last week or whatever, but I don't put a lot of stock into that. But that could be another reason we've seen some money on Arizona because they did lose to this team last year. So one of their better pitchers on the mound, it could be a statement game.
Yeah, definitely makes sense to me in that one. Another game that we should hit on here, guys, is this Cubs and Brewers game. It's sitting there in the title, so I don't want anybody searching for this and not being able to get their Cubs and Brewers breakdown. So, Steve, I'll throw it back your way for that one. And any thoughts as far as the Brew Crew? Maybe the chat's favorite team is always finding a way to back the Brewers. It looks like Brown and Peralta is going to be the matchup in this one, but even against a 27-27 Cubs club, that's a number that I don't know if I'm interested in laying with the Brewers here, even at home. What do you think?
Yeah, one of my favorite logos is actually the Milwaukee baseball glove logo that you see there. So I would get on board with the Brewers, the Brew Crew. I'm waiting for that name to get canceled though, because it's probably inappropriate for children under 12. I tried to get that hat for my little league for like 6 years now, and I've always wondered that, Dan, because I've never seen a Brewers team in our leagues, and I'm wondering if it's because it's Brewers. Perhaps we had a lot of Indians teams until that got banned a couple years ago, so I'm not sure why they'd worry about it. One thing I'll point out about this is the Cubs are in a slide right now. They've lost 5 straight, 6 of their last 7. For the most part, they've had 8 hits or less in every game but 1. They are struggling offensively right now, so that would get me looking towards the under in the game, perhaps. Also, maybe the Cubs team total under. And right now, we have seen a little bit of under money coming on this one. It's gone down to 7.5 now. It's circa in Vegas. Everybody else is holding at 8.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. How about you, EP, in that one? Any thoughts in that Brew Crew game? Anything stand out to you in that? Because I just saw the price for the home side, and I didn't want to run and back a 2-8 in their last 10 Cubs team. It was a sheer pass for me. You find anything to bet in that one?
Yeah, no pass. When Milwaukee was minus 105 yesterday, no brainer. Hammered the Brewers, great result. But I'm in a situation now where you have your ace going, you have a clearly inflated line, though I do think Milwaukee is clearly the better baseball team overall. Price rules everything, so at 165, it's something that I'm not looking to dive into. I will say, though, it's kind of surprising because last year the Cubs are one of the better overall contact teams, and like their lineup hasn't turned over all too much from last year to see them be this like really heavy strikeout and whiff team. So I would maybe look at Peralta's strikeout prop, but he also is wild, and the Cubs are relatively patient at the plate. So again, a situation where I don't have a good read. You could tell me the Brewers win 6-0, I don't blink, and you could tell me the Cubs win 4-3 in the extra innings, and I don't blink either. So I have no opinion on this one.
Yeah, if you're joining us in the live chat, keep those questions coming. Keep your thoughts on the games coming as well. Shout out. We got a motley crew in there joining us. We got Big Munch in the chat. Jack Barkow, City by the Bay, of course, Titan CT. We appreciate all you over on the YouTube Shorts feed. Ruzen checking in. Reminds me of the Bad News Bears, where Billy Bob got the Little League team sponsored by a strip club. So, Steve, there's still hope for the Brewers hats. For the Little League team.
Chico's
And who knows?
bail bonds, wasn't it? Wasn't one of them was bail bonds? Wasn't it like Chico's bail bonds or whatever? I occasionally run into that movie. Occasionally run into it on the Netflix.
All time classic there. And
drinking
who knows?
beer on the bench. Might have been a cigarette involved. I mean,
in today's day and age, guys, no, not anymore. But hey, in today's day and age, Steve, you don't know if Prez gets a hold of like a minor league baseball team, you could be looking at like the Saskatchewan Stoners coming to a AAA league near you. You never know what's going to happen.
Tie-dye jerseys. That'd be fantastic. You might be onto something right there. You could have the tie-dye jerseys and then shorts. Nelly Stewart's White Sox shorts. That would be a great outfit.
Those drug rugs, turn them into shorts. Yeah, it would be a whole vibe, a whole potential look. What do you guys think?
Gummies for the first 500. That'd be fantastic.
Steve, we might be on to something. I'm actually going to slap Steve on the side.
We need a minor league baseball team, Dan. Let's make this happen.
We have a potential business venture. If you want to join Steve and I's business venture for the Saskatchewan Stoners, hop below in the comments. We'll let you know how to sign up. We'll get a GoFundMe going. All right, gentlemen, I waited long enough. I thought the chat would bring it up organically. Maybe it's because it's over 2 bills that you have to lay with the Phillies in a bounce-back spot. You could argue the slumping Phillies, albeit short, but it's Zach Wheeler on the bump in San Francisco today. I can't even do my usual, hey, let's get the starting pitcher to win, because you're looking at minus 150 and up at some spots for Zach Wheeler to record the win today. It has all the makings, the D-Gen special, whatever you want to call it, the get-back game 9:45 for a Phillies slam spot. But for some reason, guys, and I know you could lay the 1.5, you could work it out. It's not a Phillies side for me, even with my man Wheeler on the bump. You know that I love him. You know that I stan him. I don't know if I'm betting San Francisco, as I'm still waiting to figure out what the hell they're going to be doing with their pitching matchup. But man, this feels like, yes, the Phillies haven't lost 3 games in a year, 3 games in a row, even during their bad stretch. I don't know, EP. This one just feels like it's too easy of a slam spot for the Phillies, which makes me want to completely cross it off the card. What do you think?
You're Phillies.
I think you muted yourself there, EP.
I hate your Phillies.
Wheeler has a very good metrics against the current Giants roster, like a 35.5 K rate, 68 plate appearances, a 285 expected weighted on base, 224 batting average. So it's like he has dominated this Giants order. Like you said, we have to see what San Francisco's doing. I saw like Eric Miller potentially would open up. He's made like 1 start this year. Phillies even saw him last night. So I don't know how much they're going to get out of a guy like that. I think this kind of just ties in more. I'll speak a little bit theory on this game. I don't have a lot of thoughts on this specifically, But back to what we were saying with the Atlanta Braves now, of course, we know what Philly has done so far this season. But with the Phillies kind of sliding, and now I'm sure people being bearish on Atlanta without Ronald Acuna, now would be the time if you're looking for some NL East futures or some NL futures to kind of think that the Braves will go over the Phillies. I think now is the time to start looking at those numbers instead of, just because, like we said, Ronald Acuna has not been as great this year. Sean Murphy, Austin Riley are both back for Atlanta. So while I'm not really have anything on this one potentially, I do think that just by the laws of baseball and how we've seen from the Phillies recently, their time to kind of cool off is happening, and the Braves are absolutely not down and out by any means.
Yeah, I love the way that you potentially could find some value. And if you are a future bettor like our man Eric Pauly is, and you can always get his thoughts over at the Gold Sheet, check that out here at wt.buzz/TGS. Steve, as far as this one goes, as far as this game in a vacuum, somebody in the chat said it best. I don't have the name in front of me, but it was that the Phillies money line is the definition of a bad bet. The bad bet still could potentially hit, though. But I think his point is one that is well made. Is sure people love these favorite parlays, but with the Phillies in the current form that they're at, sometimes a big price thrown into a 3-team parlay, it makes sense, especially for recreational bettors, especially if you're just trying to have some fun. This wouldn't be one of the games that I think I would be rushing to throw in one of the 3-teamers today. What do you think about that and this price that the Phils are laying in the bounce back spot, even with one of their aces? And I guess you could pick from their entire pitching staff and call them all aces, at least how it started with the starting pitchers. But this price, it's just not even one I would want to even throw into a parlay.
I like where Eric was going with the future stuff because, as I said earlier, I do think this could be a spark for the Braves at 30-21. They've underperformed, yet they still have the fourth best run differential in the league behind the Phillies, Dodgers, and Brewers, the 3 divisional winners, leaders right now. Also, I do think the Phillies are going to regress. We all know they're not going to win nearly 70% of their games all season. Dan dreams about that every night, but then when he wakes up, reality hits. They're at 69% right now, so they're not even doing it now. But the other thing that jumps out to me about the Phillies' big picture is that they've played 55 games this year, and only 11 of them have been against a winning opponent. Now, after allowing San Francisco to win last night, the Giants are now 28-27. So maybe there's some logic there. They're going to beat them now so they can expand on that record against winning opponents. But to put it in perspective, they've played 4 more games than the Braves so far. Atlanta's played 51 games. 24 of Atlanta's 51 have been against winning opponents. 11 of Phillies' 55 have. So Phillies have a tougher schedule coming up over the next few months. I like where EP is going with the futures. If you want to get bullish with the Braves, which I think you should, now is the time. And I definitely would not be buying on the Phillies right now, as I think they're at a peak with the Braves chasing. As far as this game goes, the fade spot was probably yesterday. In hindsight, obviously it was. They lost 8-4. But Ralph Michaels pointed this out a few weeks ago on one of the shows, and I can't remember if it was baseball or basketball because it applies to all 3 sports, and I've been following it ever since. And boys, it held up for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But teams coming off the altitude games, whether it's playing the Broncos in the NFL, the Rockies in MLB, or the Nuggets in the NBA, the next game, those teams are all losing propositions in all 3 sports for decades now, moneyline, ATS, whatever you want to look at. And the T-Wolves have obviously been fatigued this whole series against the Mavericks. I think in hindsight, it has a lot to do with taking Denver to 7. And, of course, the Phillies were playing the Rockies and lost 8-4 yesterday in the first game. So this might be that bounce-back spot. But big picture over the next couple of weeks, I'd be careful with your Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And even yesterday, I was arguing. There were some folks saying, "Hey, Phillies, Memorial Day, let's get some money on him. It's the bounce back spot for him." And exactly what Steve said right there. And there were also some folks in the chat that were kind of detracting, who were saying, "Well, the game was in the afternoon. It wasn't like night travel after paying at altitude." Like, your lungs don't give a shit what time it is, right? When you go from playing in altitude, you go from playing 3 games, you go from games that weren't really as easy as they should have been when you're talking about a Rockies team, and the games that the Phillies won in Colorado were all comebacks. So, what these guys are saying, yes, I want to come on here. I want to be the pom-pom waver. I want to say the Phils are rocking. I agree. You're going to learn about this Phillies team in this stretch that's coming up here. And while we're learning about them, when they're actually playing quality opponents, this isn't the time when I want to be laying prices like this, even when you have my man Wheeler on the bump. So that's the thoughts on the Phillies and San Francisco Giants game. We belabored the point because, it's what the homer does. But even the homer isn't back in the Phils tonight. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your favorite play is, because we're going to hear the guys' favorite plays right now. That's right. It's time for Best Bets. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. It's a great way to say thanks to these guys. And also check them out. Check out the premium plays. We got great deals rocking all the time. You can get a free guide at wt.buzz/GSL. Eric Pauly works tirelessly getting you all the actionable info you need over at Gold Sheet. If you want to ride with the Gold Sheet, the premium picks are wt.buzz/TGS. But let's talk this Miami and San Diego Padres game. I know you can break down the entire game for the folks, EP, as you always can, but you're ISOing in on Luzardo here, and you think Luzardo might just have a hand or the upper hand to start the game here against the Padres. How are you looking to bet this one?
Mentioned getting on one of the earlier games. You hear me? So something very similar to what I mentioned on one of the earlier games, and this is something that I do often when it comes to baseball. Now, I am a huge baseball fan, and I watch a ton of games. Now, I'm not saying that, my eyes are better than some of the advanced metrics, but you do pick up on certain things when watching baseball itself if you know the sport well, and then you pair that with what the numbers are telling you, and you're able to make some, decisions. Last year, Jesus Luzardo, fantastic to start the season, slow end of the season, and then so far he had a terrible spring training, and then he had a very rough go so far this season. However, looking at Luzardo's metrics, they are much better than advertised, and I think that some of the woes he had plagued him to start, but this is a good spot for him to bounce back. Now you're going to look at the Padres lineup and say they don't strike out against left-handed pitching, and that technically is true, but you have pitchers that they went against like Trevor Rogers, Carlos Rodon, Andrew Abbott, not strikeout pitchers, so they did not go over their numbers. But then you have Chris Sale and Shoto Imanaga, two big strikeout pitchers who flew well over their numbers, 9 Ks for Sale and 8 for Imanaga. So I think 4.5 is just simply way too low for a guy like Luzardo, who is, when it's on his game, a strikeout pitcher. Asking him to just get 5 Ks against this Padres lineup that struggles against left-handed pitching in the first place. Again, yes, their K metrics are low, but I think it's because they're a little inflated the other way because they have not faced good strikeout lefties. I think this is a good matchup for Luzardo to go over 4.5 at -125. Very reasonable price. Jesus Luzardo over 4.5 Ks.
Luzardo over the 4.5 Ks, a little pitcher prop there for you. I actually have a player prop that I'm going to be betting in the Yankees and Angels game that I'll share with you here in just a few. But Steve also has that game slated as a potential best bet for him on the card here today. So I want to hear your thoughts first before I give you mine on a guy who I think might just go over his total bases because it's in if it ain't broke, don't fix it special. Coming up. So that probably lets you know, you baseball fans, how I'm looking to bet this one. But Steve, I want to know how you're looking to bet this one and also what you have up over at WagerTalk.
Go look at a free play for tonight. Free baseball play here for Tuesday night, May the 28th, between the Yankees and Angels, one of your late night games at 9:38 Eastern. I'm going to get to that free play in just a moment. Let you know I do have 2 strong best bets tonight in Major League Baseball, a 2-for-1 special. Buy one and get the second play for just $4 more with that 2-for-1 combo right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. A side and a total. 2 strong client best bets in baseball for Tuesday night on my page at WagerTalk.com. Game that was just a bit outside from making the cut is this late game, and I'm going to take a look at the Yankees. Now, we're going to talk about the best way to play it in a moment, but I want to put this in perspective. The Yankees have the best run differential in baseball. They have the second best win percentage behind the Phillies, but they have the best overall run differential in baseball. And then on the other side, we look at the Angels, who have been the worst home team in baseball this season. They have only 6 wins. They are 6-19 at home. And to put that in perspective, every other baseball team, all other 29 teams have double-digit wins, including the awful White Sox and Marlins, who each have 10 wins apiece. And the Angels are 6-19 at home. Yankees actually have more road wins than at home, and they have really beaten up on bad teams this year. They've gone 25-10 against losing teams. Angels, meanwhile, have gone 13-12 against winning teams, but they're 7-21. I'm sorry, against losing teams. They're 7-21 against winning teams. So all the angles here favor the Yankees, and also the pitching matchup does as well. In fact, this current Angels lineup is only 3 for 19 against Cortez during his career, 158 batting average. Yankees, better offense, better bullpen, better starting pitcher. So the question becomes, how do we best play this? Because it is a little bit of a hefty price. Now, I have no problem actually laying the minus 178, 180 on the money line, but I think the run line's an even better option. Get it down to minus 115. Take the Yankees minus 1.5, minus 115 run line. And another reason this is a focused spot, they have all the edges. So the question becomes, will they be focused? Well, yes, because they're coming off a loss at San Diego on Sunday, traveled yesterday. And as we know, game one road favorites are always worth a look because they don't overlook weaker opponents. And the fact the Yankees are off a loss should make that even more so the case tonight. All the edges for New York, you could play a minus 180, or you can play a minus 1.5, minus 115, or you could split it. Play half a unit on each, and you're making your own minus one line right around that minus 135, minus 140 range. But no matter how you cut it, it's a nice setup for the New York Yankees tonight on Tuesday.
Pat, over on the YouTube short. Steve giving you a shout out. Isaiah also letting you know that the streets are behind you, Steve. The streets mess with Steve, according to our man Isaiah there in the chat as well. So everybody's got your back, Steve. And also over on that chat, 760 Leo is saying, just say it. He didn't like my setup for the player prop that I'm going to be betting here. Tyler saying Dan's going to be on Judge total bases. That's square mother effer him. No, actually, I'm going to be going on Anthony Volpe over the total bases, simply because the dude's doing something that we haven't seen a Yankee do since Derek Jeter was wearing pinstripes. 19 straight games with a hit. The last time we saw that happen for a Yankee was back in 2012 with that aforementioned Derek Jeter. Whenever you're in that territory, I like it. And even in the losing efforts, and I'm with Steve, I don't expect this to be a losing effort for the Yankees, but even if so, this guy's still contributing. 1 for 3 in Sunday's 5-2 loss. He had a run, he had a walk. And since we're getting the same price for hits, it says 1.5 over hits is sitting at plus 115. The total bases is sitting at plus 115. So it makes sense for me. Potentially get a double, triple. Hey, who knows when the guy's hitting like he is, but I've been riding this streak. I should have brought it up prior. Hey, if he finally messes up the hitting streak, hop below in the comments and say, Dan, you jinxed our man Volpe. I'm playing if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If he gets on base, he probably gets over 1.5 total bases in the game. So give me that at plus 115. That's the player prop that I was eyeing in that one. So hop below and let us know in the comments your favorite bets, whether they're player props, whether they're sides, whether they're totals. We love hearing from you down there, and we appreciate you in the chat. 760 Leo, don't worry. I got your back. He's looking at Ozuna for a hit. See, I got you, man. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you haven't, hit that like button on your way out. Big thanks to Steve Merril. Big thanks to Eric Pauly. I'm Dan Alexander, and we will be back locked and loaded with a full slate of shows. And don't worry, even if the NBA is trying to get these sweeps done, we at least have one more NBA show in a 7-day stretch coming your way today. So make sure you're subscribed. That's coming up here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, alongside all the daily content that we're dropping, like Drew's Daily Diamond, Steve's Daily MLB Breakdown EP, dropping a gold sheet play of the day. The way to catch it all is to be subscribed so you can get all the info you need to bet all the sports you love. We do it on an hourly basis here on WagerTalk TV. Best of luck, everyone. We'll see you locked and loaded on Wednesday, hopefully with a little bit more extra money in our pocket. We'll see you then.